Also in the Nanahail County District, we have incumbent Tommy Baldwin, and he is being challenged by Melissa Evans. First question goes to Mr. Baldwin and Ms. Evans. It's question number 1. As local media have reported, Macon County Schools recently faced a shortfall of over $500,000 for this year's budget. Some of that shortfall was not entirely foreseeable. The fact that the state has increased our salaries by 1.2% after the budget had been completed. There was a benefit increase of 1.1%, and there was an insurance increase of 5%, for which the county had to pick up the tab for all those positions that are locally funded, to the tune of about $350,000. Also, after we saw what class loads were, after the first couple of weeks of school, we had an additional 150 students. We had to come up with 3 new teacher positions. That was another $150,000. Also, we added permanent positions with what was known to be at the time temporary dollars. We also funded a rather expensive intercession last year, which was exceptionally expensive. Question to the school board candidates: what steps would you take to put Macon County Schools on firmer financial ground, and what changes would you make in current approaches that the board takes to maintain financial oversight? Mr. Baldwin.
What steps would you take to
What steps would you take to put Macon County on firmer financial ground? We're doing that now. As we say, look at the budget, the places that we can cut, we will cut. But right now, with the positions that we have, we're down to bare bones on most of the positions, because we in order to save money in the budget in the last 3 years at least, we've had to, when somebody retired, not far back in a lot of positions. The steps will be located closer, run closer down on it, to see where we can gain. What changes would you make in the current what it takes to maintain financial oversight? But we'll have to look at it more. We'll have to determine what we really have to have and what we don't have to have in order to keep them going over on this stuff. And we will do it.
Ms. Evans.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I don't have knowledge of what the school board is doing currently with the budget. I do have financial background though, and I would love to look at that budget, and I have a lot of ideas that I'd like to put forth. But as far as your information here, I'm going to be honest with you and just tell you I wasn't aware of any of the budget up to this point, because I've not seen that. So, and I'm not sure what the school board has been doing up to this point. But that's one reason I want this position, is I'm going to have a chance to look at that and see what kind of ideas that I can bring with my financial background.
Thank you very much. Do you have any follow-up, Mr. Baldwin? Would you like to add? I'm going to go ahead and toss that to Mr. Cuppers with a related question. Question number 1. What do you believe the county commissioner's role, the county commission's role, should be in assisting with these current financial woes that the school system finds itself in?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank NCAE for putting this on, because I know we're not supposed to take up our time to do that, but it is our time. So I'd like to thank you for putting it on. I'd like to read to you. I'm going to read from the state constitution, Article 1, Section 15. The topic is education. The people have a right to the privilege of education, and it is the duty of the state to guard and maintain that right. Additionally, there are statutes that say that bricks and mortar, books, capital goods, capital outlay is the responsibility of the county. So, that's not answering your question, but this is. What we will do is what we have always done. We will link arm in arm with the school board. We will find the way to fix this problem. We are meeting right now, as we speak, our liaisons are meeting with the school board liaisons. I do not think that it is rational to assume that a county can absorb the cuts from a General Assembly that seems bent on underfunding public education into oblivion. The simple truth is this: the state is responsible to maintain education, teachers are required to do that, and the counties are statutorily required to maintain the capital goods and the capital outlay of the schools. We'll talk later in another question, hopefully, of what we have done to do that at the county level. I'd be happy to share that with you. But my point here is that our role is to join arms, link arms with the school board, as we are doing right now. We don't have time to point fingers. That's the beauty of local government. We don't have time to point fingers. We don't have time to cause problems. We have time to solve problems. And that is what we are doing right now. We will work with the school board through our liaisons, and we'll find a way to solve this problem. Some of those solutions may not be pretty, and I'm not going to stand here and blow sunshine. They may be ugly, they may be painful, but they will be a joint decision between the school board and the county commissioners, and we'll fix it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hickett.
I'm here tonight as a candidate county commissioner and as an advocate for the Macon County taxpayers. I'm not an educator. I'm a small business owner. I look at things from a business model. My opinions tonight are personal. I thank the NCAE for hosting this forum, and I would prefer a session that with questions that represented the entire educational team. I think about 25% of the educators belong to the NCAE, and I'm kind of disheartened that there's no more people here than this tonight. In reviewing these sample questions that we've got here, I'm a little dismayed that the general theme of these questions deal with issues such as increased funding, more teachers, supplemental pay, and smaller class sizes centered around the adult side of local education. No questions really deal with the quality of student education. And as far as it says, assisting with these financial woes, the current obligations to the local school system by Macon County taxpayers is this: the current school-related principal and interest debt for the school system is between $48 and $49 million. The annual principal and interest payments on this debt is $5.3 million. Annual local appropriations to the Board of Education Expense Fund is around $7 million annually. Now, considering the nation is over $16 trillion in debt, we're in a deep recession, and taxpayers simply can't afford to pay any more taxes to fund any program. I think we as taxpayers have been generous and very supportive of local education, and a lot of us don't know what goes on in the educational system, so our measure of student learning has to do with articles that appear in papers, and I would consider that a report card, and it places our school system or our test scores in the lower half of the western region. How much more money is necessary, and how much more debt do we need to incur to improve these test scores or to improve the student education that's reflected in better test scores? The Board of Education, or the Board of Commissioners, I view it as simply a funding agency to the school system, and the Board of Education is the management entity.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cummers, would you like to follow up?
I'd just like to say that in this regard, Mr. Higgins and I do agree. The Board of Education is in charge of managing the schools, and I do not think it's appropriate for the Board of Commissioners to micromanage the schools. It is not our job. But I would like to say that I think that the Board of Education and the county commissioners have worked well together. I think that it is important to understand that while we do have to make an investment in our schools, back when I was young, somebody made an investment in me. When I was young, somebody built the schools for me. If I have to, if that's what we have to do, then I think we need to build the schools for our children. Thank you.
Mr. Hickey, your follow-up?
Well, I would agree that we have to make those investments, but at what level is that investment? And I think that level needs to be determined by the taxpayers, and the sky's not the limit here. I think we've made a sizable investment in education, I just don't know how much more we need to do when we're getting test results that seem insufficient.